Chapter 41, Failed Fusion Fat What? Chapter 41, Failed Fusion Fat What? Everyone's attention was focused on Vegeta in that moment. They eagerly awaited Vegeta's response. If Vegeta is truly willing to fuse with Goku, then maybe they can actually defeat Janemba. Because right now, they are utterly helpless. Even if 5 people join forces, they wouldn't stand a chance against Janemba. TSK. Vegeta clenched his teeth in anger. Fusing with Kakarot is something he will never tolerate. Even if he were to fuse with someone, it cannot be Kakarot. Stop annoying me with such idiotic remarks in front of me, Kakarot. If you want me to fuse with you, then I'd rather die. Vegeta said to Goku in a venomous tone. It's not that he's being cruel, but it's the truth. If fusing with Kakarot is the only way to defeat Janemba, then he'd rather be killed by Janemba. What's more, he's already dead now. Vegeta, don't say that. Goku muttered softly upon seeing Vegeta so enraged. He continued, if you don't want to, then forget it. Although their fusion would undoubtedly create the most perfect fighter, it can't happen if Vegeta is so opposed to it. After all, fusion requires the willingness of both parties and simultaneous fusion actions. As long as one person is unwilling, fusion cannot be achieved. Humph. Vegeta turned around arrogantly, crossing his arms over his chest. At that moment, Gohan approached. He earnestly said to Goku, Father, let's fuse. Although the result may not be as good as fusing with Vegeta, we should still be able to defeat Janemba. In reality, Gohan and Goku don't have many contradictions when it comes to fusion. As long as the immediate crisis can be resolved and everyone remains safe and sound, fusion is merely a minor matter. Besides, Gohan's current power is not inferior to that of Vegeta. So even after fusion, they shouldn't be too weak. That's the only option. Goku nodded. While Vegeta is the ideal fusion partner, Gohan is also very strong. After fusion, their strength will undoubtedly increase significantly. Goku had witnessed the fusion dance during the previous Otherworld martial arts tournament on planet Metamor. The fused individuals were much stronger than before. Therefore, fusing with Gohan should be more than enough to deal with Janemba in the future. Rumble. Just as the two of them had made up their minds, a violent explosion suddenly erupted, and Janemba reappeared before everyone. However, Janemba was no longer the plump and foolish guy from before. He had transformed into a different form. His entire body was covered in red skin, with a layer of light purple armor like scales. A devilish smile adorned his face. Goku, Gohan, hurry up and perform the fusion. Leave this guy to us for now. We'll do our best to buy you some time. Piccolo clenched his fist and said to Goku and Gohan. He was fully aware that he was no match for Janemba. But there was no other choice. He could only assist Goku and Gohan as much as possible to buy them time for fusion. Alright, we're counting on you guys. Goku said to the 3 of them. He then placed his index and middle fingers between Gohan's eyebrows. In the next second, their bodies disappeared instantly. He. After Janemba witnessed the disappearance of Goku and Gohan, he let out a sharp shriek. He then directly confronted Piccolo and Vegeta, launching an attack. Damn bastard! Even without the tricks of fusion, I, Vegeta, can defeat you. Ha! Vegeta seemed to be provoked by something. After roaring, he transformed into a Super Saiyan and charged towards Janemba. Piccolo and Piccin simultaneously unleashed their powers and joined the battle. However, the strength of the 3 of them was far too weak compared to Janemba. Almost instantly, they were sent flying by a Janemba. After Goku used instant transmission, he was transported to King Yema's realm. Gohan, get ready for the fusion next. You've witnessed the fusion dance technique before. We only have one chance. Because after a failed fusion, we have to wait for half an hour, and that half hour is enough time for the Janemba to annihilate us. Goku said to Gohan with great seriousness. They only had one chance. If the fusion failed, they would undoubtedly be wiped out by the wave of evil energy. I understand, Dad. Gohan nodded solemnly. The two of them then performed a peculiar dance and initiated the fusion. Fusion. Ha! Their voices blended harmoniously. In the next moment, a white light enveloped their bodies. 2 seconds later, the white light vanished. Goku and Gohan were gone. However, in their place stood a rotund figure. The fusion resulted in fat Gotenks-like being. Clearly, their fusion had failed. After all, they had never received this kind of training. Moreover, keeping all movements and breaths perfectly synchronized is no easy task. The current situation made it impossible for anyone to remain calm. It's over. Their fusion has failed. King Kai and the other 4 Kais were instantly panicked. Fusion was their only hope. But now there was a discrepancy in Goku and Gohan's fusion. In this situation, they would have to wait another half an hour. However, the battle had reignited. Janemba also appeared to have lost interest in this tedious fight and began to engage seriously. In half an hour, Janemba would have more than enough time to eliminate everyone. Yet, fat Gotenks, oblivious to their failure, dashed into the battlefield with a burst of energy. Upon seeing this obese figure, shock and deep contemplation washed over everyone's faces. Was this corpulent man in front of them the result of a failed fusion? Why did he feel so unreliable? What the hell is this? It's a good thing I didn't fuse with that idiot Kakarot. Seeing the failure of the fusion, Vegeta expressed his joy. Seems like something went wrong with the fusion. It's all over. Piccolo and Trunks also wore grim expressions. Confident in their fusion, Fat Gotenks pointed his finger provocatively at Janemba's face and declared, Hey, next, Lord Fat Gotenks will send you to hell. It appeared that the product of a failed fusion was becoming arrogantly overconfident. Piccolo and Vegeta instinctively covered their faces. This plump, little fat man looked incredibly embarrassing, a truly shameful sight. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 42. Scion Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation. Chapter 42, Chapter 42. Chapter 42. And at this moment, in the world of the Supreme Kai, Supreme Kai Shin also looked stunned. 2 individuals with such perfect bodies transformed into a plump little man after fusion. Clearly, their fusion dance had failed. With this form, defeating Janemba seemed impossible. However, he couldn't think of a good way to deal with Janemba at all. Supreme Kai, I've been troubling you for so long. I think it's time for me to leave too, said Goten. There's a riot in the underworld, and it's bound to affect Earth. I need to go to Earth to assess the situation, Goten responded. Goten didn't pay much attention to what was happening in the underworld because those things had nothing to do with him. Goku and Vegeta were dead, and no matter how brave he was, he couldn't change that fact. But those who survived on Earth needed his protection. At least his mother and Bulma couldn't be harmed. Alright, Supreme Kai agreed. Then let Kibito take you back. It might be a little faster that way. Supreme Kai hoped that Goten could help resolve the issues in the underworld. However, seeing Goten's obvious unwillingness to assist, they had to consider other options. Many riots and crises were happening on Earth, and Goten was needed to protect the planet. No need, I'll go back by myself. Goten shook his head. He had already learned Kibito's instant transmission technique. With these words, his body swayed a few times, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the Supreme Kai world. What? It's Kai's instant transmission. How did Goten learn instant transmission? Kibito was astonished by Goten's display of the technique. It didn't make sense. If Goten already knew it, why was he initially trapped in the universe? Goten is full of surprises, Supreme Kaishin pondered, also puzzled. And now, on Earth. Whoosh! Goten's body instantly appeared in midair. The Earth had fallen into complete chaos. Those who had been deceased for a long time had been resurrected, and the underworld and the real world were now completely connected. Countless demons and dead people from hell roamed the streets that were once bustling with traffic. Go back to hell. Goten unleashed an energy wave directly, obliterating the demons and dead people from hell on the ground. Hum hum. Oh ho 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 ho. A very recognizable laughter resounded, unmistakably the laugh of Frisia, the Universe Emperor. Goten immediately looked up and saw Frisia and his Jinya Special Forces. Frisia? It's interesting, Goten murmured, a small smile appearing on his face. In a flash, he appeared in front of Frisia. The moment Frisia laid eyes on Goten, his smile froze. Son. Goku? No. I'm not Goku. I'm Goku's son, Goten replied, his resemblance to the original Goku strikingly evident. And even if Goku had turned into ashes, he will definitely recognize him. This brat may not be Goku, but he is still Goku's son. Well, killing Goku's son will be a wish come true for me. It's been a while, Frisia, Goten greeted with a smile, looking at the surprised villain. Though Frisia was a villain, Goten didn't really hate him. Frisia's ruthless style truly embodied the essence of villainy, unlike the deceptive gentleman act pulled off by Frost in the 6th universe. However, he was quite courteous to his subordinates, always adding the title Mr. to their names. Frisia, in his own way, was a peculiar villain. Oh. You, brat, are Goku's son, aren't you? Frisia inquired, placing his right hand on his chest in an exaggeratedly gentlemanly manner and bowing it 90 degrees. But the moment he raised his head, his eyes turned fiercely intense. As much as I hate to admit it, yes, I am Goku's son, Goten replied, maintaining his smile. Whoosh! Suddenly, a clear piercing sound rang out. Goten! Following the sound, a familiar voice reached their ears. It was Krillin. In the next second, Krillin materialized right beside Goten. You're finally back, Goten. I can sense that you've undergone a significant transformation. Your strength must have greatly improved. Krillin said, a bit surprised. From Goten's demeanor, Krillin sensed something he hadn't before. It was evident that Goten had become much stronger. Not bad, Mr. Krillin. It looks like Aunt Bulma upgraded you again. Goten remarked with a glance at the sturdy and a light taller Krillin beside him, offering a smile. Although he couldn't sense Krillin's aura, Goten knew Krillin must have significantly improved. His current strength was undoubtedly much greater than it was 2 or 3 months ago. Indeed, the previous transformation was incomplete, a mere device with boundless energy. But now, I become a true artificial human like that of androids 17 and 18. Bulma has given me a complete transformation, Krillin admitted candidly. After the Cell Saga, Krillin had realized that the simple transformation he underwent wasn't enough to boost his strength significantly. Thus, after dealing with Cell, he spent 2 months undergoing a transformation. His strength had qualitatively improved. During Bulma's repair of Android 16, she had gained valuable insights and inspiration from Dr. Gero's work, which greatly enhanced her talent in this field. Despite the improvements, Krillin knew there was still a substantial gap between his power and Goten's. Nonetheless, he could now handle some less powerful opponents without burdening Goten. Looking at the drastically transformed Krillin, Goten couldn't help but feel uneasy. No one would willingly undergo the painful process of becoming an artificial human. However, sometimes circumstances forced people to make difficult choices and sacrifices. Nani? Frisia exclaimed. That little bald guy I saw on Namek? He. The pesky little bald guy is back from the dead. The moment Frisia saw Krillin, his eyes gleamed with intense killing intent. For Frisia, Krillin was the one responsible for his humiliating defeat. If it weren't for Krillin, Goku wouldn't have achieved Super Saiyan status, and Frieza wouldn't have suffered at the hands of those Saiyan monkeys for so long or been dismembered by that Saiyan brat on Earth. All the pain he endured in hell was due to that little bald guy. Finally, he could crush him and vent the inhuman torture he endured for all those years. This time, no one could save him. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 43, Hell Frieza vs Android Krillin. Saiyan Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 43, Hell Frieza vs Android Krillin. Chapter 43, Hell Frieza vs Android Krillin. As Frieza turned his gaze towards Krillin, Krillin also lifted his head and met Frieza's eyes, along with his Jinyu force. For a moment, Krillin's expression turned indifferent. In a calm tone, he spoke, Frieza, I don't know how you came back to life, but I strongly advise you to leave Earth. Otherwise, I'll make sure you meet your demise here once again. Krillin's voice was icy, yet filled with confidence and authority. His strength now far surpassed that of Frieza. Over 10 years ago, just facing Frieza would have terrified him, but now he felt no fear at all. Even if the formidable Perfect Cell were to be revived, Krillin was certain he could handle it. Nanny! Frieza was dumbfounded for a moment, a mix of surprise and disbelief evident on his face. The once timorous little bald guy from Namek now dared to speak to him like this. This world seemed to have gone mad. Cluck! After recovering from the shock, Frieza clenched his teeth in anger. A mere bald guy was like an ant in his eyes, how dare he speak in such a tone? They seemed to have forgotten the terror of the Universe Emperor Frieza, so he decided to remind them of his power. Jeez, Berter, go and play with that little bald guy, I want him to suffer slowly. As for Goku's son, leave him to me. I'll take care of him personally. Frieza commanded Jees and Berter, who stood behind him. Of course, there was also others at Frieza's side. It was easy to see that this other side has Captain Jinyu, who once held great glory but seemed less popular now. Okay, Lord Frieza, Jees and Berter nodded and stepped forward. A fierce determination appeared in Krillin's eyes. Finally, he could unleash his power to kill his enemy. It had been a long time since he experienced the thrill of battle. Goten, I'll handle Frieza and these guys. I have unfinished business with Frieza from our time on Namek. Krillin turned his head and looked at Goten before speaking. More than 10 years ago on Namek, Frieza had been a nightmare for him. But now, he was not the same person anymore. In Krillin's eyes, the once glorified Universe Emperor Frieza was now utterly vulnerable. And today, he had the chance to settle the score with him. Alright, I leave it to you, Goten replied. He understood that Krillin wanted to gauge his current strength. Moreover, there was indeed an old score to settle between Krillin and Frieza. Little Baldy, prepare to feel the terror of hell. At that moment, Jees and Berter let out a sharp roar and charged directly at Krillin. In their eyes, Krillin was nothing more than a helpless sheep they could toy with. However, just as they began to move, Krillin's figure suddenly appeared in front of them. Without hesitation, Krillin released 2 energy balls that obliterated the bodies of both Jees and Berter in an instant. Nani? No. Impossible. Lord Jees and Lord Berter were actually killed by that little bald guy. Upon witnessing the instant deaths of Jees and Berter, the Frieza forces behind Frieza were filled with horror. These fighters possessed combat effectiveness as high as 50,000, yet this low-level planet's little bald head had slain them effortlessly. It was beyond their imagination and induced instant fear within them. The power of this being was simply incomparable to theirs. Cluck! Damn little Baldy! Frieza clenched her fists tightly. It was unbelievable that the once insignificant little Baldy from 10 years ago had grown to this level of strength, capable of instantly defeating Geese and Berter. No wonder he was so arrogant just moments ago. Next, it's your turn, Frisia. Krillin's eyes remained indifferent, showing no emotional fluctuations due to the demise of Geese and Berter. Over the past 10 years, he had faced more formidable opponents. The Jinyu Force members were no match for him at all. You, little bald guy. Know your place, Frisia retorted, angered by Krillin's arrogance after improving his strength slightly by defeating Geese and Berter. You dare talk to me like that? This time, I won't let you die as easily as last time. I'll make you die in fear, bit by bit. Frisia's angry grin was met with defiant eyes from Krillin, who refused to be intimidated. To him, Krillin was just a little baldy who used to fear from him and ran from him like a headless chicken. In the blink of an eye, Frisia extended a finger, and a scarlet energy condensed at the tip. But before he could react, Krillin moved with incredible speed, appearing right in front of Frisia. Go back to your hell, Frisia. Krillin roared as he unleashed a powerful ki-infused punch. Nani? Frisia's face turned pale with shock, but he had no time to react. Krillin's punch hit him with incredible force, disintegrating Frisia's body into dust, and he vanished. Master Frisia was killed. Run! Terrified, the forces behind Frisia scattered in all directions, fleeing like scared bug. With a long sigh of relief, Krillin's trembling body revealed the weight of the moment. Finally, he had achieved what he desired, killing Frisia. This victory held great significance for Krillin, and Goten could fully understand his emotions at this moment. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 44. Scion Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 44, Chapter 44. Chapter 44. Goten was walking behind Krillin at that moment, and he gently patted him on the shoulder. Are you all right? He asked. Fine, Krillin replied. It just never occurred to me that one day I'd be able to kill Frisia. Krillin turned his head, smiling. He hadn't thought about this before, even after transforming into an artificial human. Frisia had died a long time ago, and the idea of him coming back to life had never crossed his mind. Okay, now is not the time to be emotional. Goten continued, there was a riot in the underworld, and many evil souls come to the earth to cause trouble. We still have a lot to do. Krillin nodded. Then the two split and began to send these evil souls back to hell one by one. In just 1 hour, Goten and Krillin had cleaned up all the evil spirits. Goten returned to the place they were before, but his face was slightly dignified. When destroying these evil spirits, he didn't find Broly's soul. Broly had obviously been killed by him before. Logically, he should be in Seoul, but he didn't appear on Earth this time. There are only two possibilities: either Broly's is too tenacious, and he didn't die in the previous planet explosion at all, or he went to the southern galaxy after his return from afterlife. If Broly is still alive, it's really a problem. With the blood of the legend Super Saiyan after fusion, Goten is more aware of the power of super fighters. Given enough time, Broly could grow into a formidable opponent. Whoosh! At that moment, Krillin also came back. Goten, all the evil souls on my side have been sent back to hell. Krillin spoke to Goten. I'll go back to Fire Mountain first. After being out for such a long time, I guess my mother might be a little worried about me, Goten said, planning to go home first. After all, after being away for so long, his mother must be worried. Besides, there have been so many riots and evil soul on Earth. Going back now can also protect his mother's safety. Yes, I'll go back with you. Krillin thought about it and decided to go back to Fire Mountain with Goten. After all, he has already upgraded, and there is nothing important to do next. Just after returning, he can ask Goten what happened just now. Why do those who die come back to life? And how did Goten's strength become so strong? He wanted to know what happened in the middle. Okay. Goten nodded, and then the two of them flashed and turned into a silver light. In a short while, they had already returned to Fire Mountain. Upon seeing Goten, who suddenly appeared, Chi-Chi burst into with worried expression. "Goten, are you okay?" she asked, concerned. "It's okay, Mom. Those guys just now have been dealt with by Mr. Krillin and me," Goten reassured her, his heart warm from the feeling of being cared for by his closest relatives. "Well, that's good. If something happens to you, I don't even know how I will live." Chi-Chi expressed her worries, having lost Goku and Gohan. Now, Goten was all her hope and emotional sustenance. If anything happened to him, she couldn't bear it. "Don't worry, Mom, I'm very strong now. Nothing will happen," Goten smiled, comforting her. "You might haven't be eating well outside these days, you must be starving." Chi-Chi exclaimed. "Mom is going to cook something delicious for you now. Hurry up and get in the house," Chi-Chi urged, pulling Goten into the room. Then she turned to Krillin behind her. "Krillin, you're lucky, join us to meal," Chi-Chi said, and Krillin smiled awkwardly. To be honest, he had never received such treatment before. In the past, when he wanted to play with Goku and Gohan, he would sneak around, afraid that Chi-Chi would find out. And if they were discovered, they would inevitably be scolded. But now, the treatment was completely different, and he could even enjoy a meal cooked by Chi-Chi. An hour later, a table filled with delicious dishes from meats to various cuisine was quickly devoured by Goten and Krillin. "Wow! I am so full!" Goten exclaimed. "Nothing can beat delicious food made by my mother." He rubbed his swollen belly and sighed sincerely. Compared to the food cooked by Kibito some time ago, it was like night and day. Sound of rumbling stomach just after dinner, Goten and Krillin were about to go out for a walk and discuss what had happened in the past few days when they heard the familiar sound of a helicopter again. They looked up and saw the pink helicopter. It was Videl coming. The helicopter landed in front of Krillin and Goten, and Videl stepped out. "Yo! Isn't this Mr. Satan's daughter?" Krillin joked with a smile. "Goten, it looks like your luck is coming along." Videl's father, Mr. Satan, was famous on Earth, so it was natural for Krillin to recognize her from television. It seemed like she was here for Goten. As they say, the stronger the strength, the greater the charm. "Don't say nonsense. I guess they are here to trouble me," Goten said helplessly. The last time he saw Videl, she didn't give him a good impression. "I didn't say anything." Krillin shook his head. The intuition of single people is often accurate. During their conversation, Videl approached Goten and Krillin. "Son." "Goten, long time no see," she greeted warmly. "What? Did Ms. Videl come to interrogate me again?" Goten asked with a faint smile. To be honest, Videl looked cute with her two ponytails, and her appearance was really good. "No. I've come to apologize to you," Videl said. "I was too unreasonable last time. Just now, I saw the footage of you dealing with those intruders on TV. And my father also confessed everything to me. I'm sorry, I was reckless and misunderstood you." Videl blushed and lowered her head as she apologized. Clearly, she, who was always proud, wasn't accustomed to apologizing to others. "Okay, I accept your apology. If there's nothing else, you can go back," Goten replied, still wearing a faint smile on his face. He didn't want to get involved with Videl now. "You?" Videl was taken aback. She had humbled herself and apologized to the sky, but he was about to send her away without saying a word. It was too much. And besides apologizing for her visit, more importantly, she wanted to learn how to fly from Goten. This guy really lacks compassion and empathy. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 45, Janemba in Earth? Scion Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 45, Janemba in Earth? Chapter 45, Janemba in Earth? Is there anything else, Miss Videl? Goten asked, looking at Videl, who appeared tense and flustered. I do. Videl replied without much thought. She found Goten's directness a bit overwhelming. If she had told him she had nothing else to do, he might have swiftly asked her to leave. In addition to apologizing to you this time, I also hope you can teach me, she continued. I noticed during your previous fight that you could fly in the sky. Please, teach me how to fly, Videl said, biting her red lips tightly as she stared intently at Goten. She knew her father was incapable of such a flight technique, but she had a strong desire to become stronger herself. She had to let go of her pride and ask Goten for help. Goten, what a great opportunity! Krillin chimed in excitedly. I think that girl seems interested in you. Why don't you teach her how to fly? And who knows, you might even find yourself wife. Goten glanced at Krillin and replied, how about you teach? Forget it. People will start looking down on me again. Krillin quickly shook his head, showing some self-awareness. Goten, I'm a quick learner. Just tell me the hows, and I can figure it out myself, Videl added. As Goten and Krillin whispered, Videl spoke again, expressing how learning to fly would be beneficial for her. It would eliminate the need for a helicopter and allow her to respond faster to crimes. Miss Videl, it's not that I'm mean and don't want to teach you flying technique, Goten said seriously. But as your strength grows, you'll face more formidable opponents, and your risk factor will increase. I'm not afraid, Videl stubbornly replied. Just as Goten was about to say something else, a familiar voice echoed in his mind. Goten! Goten! Can you hear me? It was Goku's voice. Krillin was surprised to hear Goku's voice as well and exclaimed, Goten, did you hear that? It was Goku's voice. Goku's voice suddenly appearing in their heads was an unforgettable moment for both Goten and Krillin. It was the first time Goku had contacted Goten in over 8 years. Well, I heard it. Goten nodded. Goten, Krillin, listen to me. Goku's voice sounded heavy and weak. I'm really sorry, but an unprecedented disaster may occur on Earth next. What's going on, Goku? Krillin asked with a puzzled look. Are you referring to those evil soul guys? But we sent them back to hell. Krillin didn't consider them a significant threat. They were nothing compared to the real danger. It seemed that Goku, being in the underworld for too long, was unaware of Goten's current strength. No, it's someone far more terrifying than those guys, Goku responded. Goten, Janemba has left the underworld after defeating us just now. King Kai mentioned that it seems to have its sights set on Earth. Goku initially dismissed Krillin's words but then spoke to Goten with great seriousness. He knew Goten was familiar with Janemba and understood the power of Janemba. Janemba? Goten raised an eyebrow. Although he wasn't afraid of Janemba, he was fully confident in defeating him effortlessly. However, the situation wouldn't be so optimistic if Janemba arrived on Earth. A serious battle of that magnitude would inevitably harm innocent people. Janemba? Who's that? Krillin was perplexed. It was the first time he had heard such a strange name. That guy's strength is much more than that of Super Perfect Cell, Goku admitted remorsefully. Goten, I'm sorry, but I can only rely on you and Krillin now. Goku's guilt was evident in his voice. If he had enough strength, he could have dealt with Janemba directly in the underworld. Unfortunately, even in a Super Saiyan 3 transformation, he was easily defeated. Fusion with Gohan also failed due to a mistake in their fusion. Ultimately, they couldn't eliminate Janemba. According to the judgment of the Grand Kai and the Kai, Janemba's target was Earth. Perhaps Janemba sensed Goten as a formidable opponent. Is it that powerful? Krillin furrowed his brow. Goku's tone already conveyed the serious threat of this Janemba guy. Okay, I understand, Goten replied calmly. The matters in the underworld may not concern me, but if Janemba intends to cause trouble on Earth, I will definitely defeat him. Goten didn't blame or complain about Goku and the others. He knew they had done their best. Despite the fusion failure, they simply couldn't stop Janemba. Blaming or complaining now wouldn't change anything. Please, Goten, Goku sighed guiltily. The cell born 8 years ago, and the super perfect cell that emerged due to their carelessness, both ended up being major problems left for Goten. Unexpectedly, now the Janemba was also became the problem for Goten. To be honest, Goku felt inadequate as a father and carried immense guilt. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 46? Saiyan Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 46, Chapter 46? Chapter 46? Goten, is that guy named Janemba really strong? Krillin asked as Goku's voice completely disappeared. Guys that even Goku and the others can't handle at all should be very strong, Krillin pondered. And Goku also made it very clear that Super Perfect Cell can't be compared with that guy at all. It seems that next, the Earth will encounter another catastrophe. Well, very strong, Goten nodded without any hesitation. If he didn't have the fusion's legendary Saiyan bloodline or the potential development by the Elder Supreme Kai, he might not be able to defeat him. That guy is made up of pure evil energy, and it's not an easy task to completely destroy him. Ugh! Krillin clenched his fists tightly and cursed in a low voice. No matter how strong the villains are, they all like to come to the Earth to make trouble. Is the Earth so popular with them? Okay. You don't have to worry too much, Goten reassured. Although Janemba is very strong, with my current strength, I can completely handle it, he said, patting Krillin on the shoulder with a smile. Hey! Who the hell were you talking to just now? Videl interrupted, looking confused. What is the Janemba you are talking about? Did you say these things on purpose to drive me away? Miss Videl, it's not safe outside now. You'd better stay in Fire Mountain. Krillin advised. My mother is right there. Goten pointed to his house, signaling Videl to go there for safety. Then he turned to Krillin and said, "Let's go." In the next second, the two of them disappeared in an instant, leaving Videl tousled in the wind. After a few moments, she snapped out of her daze and looked at the house not far away. With determination, she decided to get Goten's mother down first. If Goten is an obedient child, he will listen to what his mother will says, and Videl could learn the ability to fly from him. Meanwhile, Goten and Krillin had already appeared in midair near West City. I can't feel any ki, Krillin said as he looked around. Well, I didn't feel it either, Goten agreed. However, I suddenly felt a little uneasy in my heart. I felt that something bad would happen. Krillin nodded, also feeling a sense of apprehension. The two of them remained vigilant, as if time was passing by at a snail's pace, waiting for whatever challenge lay ahead. In the blink of an eye, 10 minutes passed. Incoming! Goten's expression changed suddenly as he sensed an incredibly powerful evil presence descending upon the earth. I feel it too, Krillin immediately nodded, a look of horror spreading across his face. My God! What kind of monster is this? The aura is overwhelmingly powerful and unbelievably malevolent, Krillin exclaimed, shaken by the intensity of the energy. This presence was far more potent and wicked than anything they had encountered before, surpassing even the former Universal Emperor Frisia and the monstrous Cell. That being is an evil entity formed by the amalgamation of countless evil energies. Mr. Krillin, let's go, Goten urged, taking the lead and flying towards the source of the malevolent aura. Krillin followed suit, their swift movements carrying them to a desolate location in the northwest of the eastern capital. Thankfully, the battle would not take place in the densely populated downtown area, sparing innocent lives from the impending clash. Suddenly, a figure appeared before them. Red-skinned, adorned in a layer of light purple armor akin to a sturdy carapace, and wielding a long sword that matched the hue of its skin. A sinister smile adorned its face, brimming with bloodlust. Is that Janemba? Krillin's face contorted in terror at the sight of the entity before them. Despite his recent transformation and new bolder demeanor, the overwhelming power and malevolence energy emanating from Janemba still left him unnerved. Yes, that's Janemba, Goten confirmed, excitement flickering across his face. It seems this opponent is even stronger than I anticipated. Indeed, Janemba possessed incredible strength, potentially surpassing the previous menace Broly. What made him even more formidable was his unorthodox method of attack, exploiting temporal and spatial dislocations to deal fatal blows to his opponents. He could disassemble his own body rapidly and reassemble it elsewhere, rendering him an exceedingly formidable adversary. In the film version, Reborn Fusion, only Gogeta's resolute utilization of starburst bombs allowed for Janemba's swift and complete defeat. Otherwise, Janemba would have proven to be an immensely terrifying opponent. However, the current battlefield was the real world, not the underworld. It remained unknown whether Janemba's strength would be equally tyrannical in this realm. Goten, let me go first, Krillin volunteered, driven by his desire to test his current strength and conquer his fear of formidable opponents. Alright, but be cautious. This opponent has the power to eliminate you in an instant, Goten cautioned, acknowledging the immense disparity between Janemba's strength and Krillin's own. Although Krillin had grown significantly in power, he still lagged far behind Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Upon hearing Goten's warning, Krillin's brow furrowed involuntarily. However, he swiftly regained his composure, meeting Goten's gaze with determination. With 2 steps forward, he prepared himself for the impending battle. Ku. Janemba gazed at Krillin, once again flashing a bloodthirsty smile. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 47, Krillin vs. Janemba? Saiyan Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 47, Krillin vs. Janemba. Chapter 47, Krillin vs. Janemba. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, Krillin charged straight at Janemba. Having undergone full android another transformation and with new upgrades, Krillin's speed had become ridiculously fast. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Janemba. He delivered a powerful punch to Janemba. It seemed that such an attack would have no effect on him. Janemba made no attempt to dodge. Krillin's fist connected with his face. Boom! Unsurprisingly, Krillin's punch landed heavily, but Janemba remained motionless, with a bloodthirsty smile on his face. What? Krillin panicked immediately. Unexpectedly, even with all his strength behind the strike, he hit Janemba directly between the eyebrows, yet there was no response from him. Clearly, such an injury had no effect on Janemba. Damn it! You bastard! As Krillin withdrew his fist, he launched several consecutive attacks. Using both fists and kicks, he relentlessly struck Janemba's body. Bang! 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 Yet the outcome remained the same. Janemba stood there like an indestructible rock, impervious to Krillin's assaults. You got to be joking. Krillin furrowed his brow. Though he knew this opponent was formidable, he didn't expect Janemba to completely ignore his attacks. The disparity between them seemed insurmountable. Coo, coo. Janemba let out a sharp laugh once again. He then swung his scarlet long sword at Krillin. Reacting swiftly, Krillin planted his feet on the ground and instantly appeared several feet away, narrowly dodging Janemba's attack. If he had been struck by that sword, it would likely have cost him his head. After regaining his balance, Krillin's expression grew determined. He clasped his hands together in an instant, assuming his signature stance. Ka, me, ha, aa. With a roar, a powerful ki blast erupted from the palm of his hand. Janemba raised his hand gently. A miniature ki appeared in the palm of his hand. It mimicked the Kamehameha wave motion and the energy wave was unleashed. What? Krillin was shocked. Disbelief was evident on his face. But before he could gather his thoughts, the Kamehameha wave's energy directly surged toward him. Rumble! As the energy wave detonated, Krillin was sent flying. He crashed heavily into the ground, his body covered in wounds. Are you kidding me? This bastard, he deflected all my attacks. Krillin's eyelids drooped as he smiled helplessly. To be injured by his own Kamehameha blast was preposterous. Soon, Krillin struggled to his feet. He then leaped over to Goten. With embarrassment, he said, "Sorry, Goten. This guy is just too strong. There's a massive gap between his power and mine." Indeed, facing such a formidable opponent was simply beyond his capabilities. "It's okay," Goten replied with a faint smile. It was no surprise to him, he had anticipated it. If Krillin could defeat Janemba, that would truly be astonishing. Goten lightly rested his hand on Krillin's shoulder. A surge of healing energy flowed from his palm into Krillin's body. After a while, Krillin's injuries were completely healed. My injuries have completely vanished. That's incredible. When did you learn this ability? Krillin looked at Goten in astonishment. According to his recollection, Goten hadn't seemed to possess this ability before. Furthermore, even though Scions are a unique race, they don't possess any healing abilities whatsoever. I learned this when I was in the Kai's world, Goten admitted without concealing anything. He merely stated the facts. The process and method of his training were personal, so naturally, he wouldn't share them with anyone. You're becoming more and more mysterious, kid, Krillin could only smile and say. But the stronger Goten became, the safer Earth would be. Meanwhile, Janemba on the other side seemed to sense Goten's power. His evil smile remained, but this time, there was a tinge of excitement in it. Because the strength of those beings in the underworld was simply no match for him. That's why he ended up in this place, seeking a more formidable opponent. He always had a feeling that he would find a powerful adversary here. As the smile vanished, Janemba leaped high into the air. Gripping the sword with both hands, he slashed directly at Goten. "Watch out, Goten!" Krillin quickly shouted a warning. Goten's expression remained unchanged. He raised his right hand, and with ease, he caught Janemba's sword between his index and middle fingers. Then he lightly folded it. Click! The sword instantly shattered. Surprise flashed across Janemba's face. But it was only momentary. He backflipped and landed firmly on the ground. Spreading his hands, half of the long sword in his grasp turned to dust. "Come on, Janemba," Goten taunted. "Let me see your strength. Just don't disappoint me." A fighting spirit emerged on Goten's face as he pursed his lips. Krillin, on the other hand, took a knowledgeable step back. In an instant, he was hundreds of feet away. His body landed firmly atop a mountain. He knew he could no longer assist in the upcoming battle. Whoosh! The next moment, Goten's body suddenly darted forward. His speed was lightfast, and Krillin couldn't perceive Goten's movements at all. Fortunately, a strength monitoring system was installed in Krillin's body. Even if he couldn't clearly see Goten's movements, he could at least discern Goten's position through energy fluctuations. The instant Goten appeared in front of Janemba, he delivered a direct punch. A cruel smirk crept onto Janemba's lips. In an instant, his body transformed into a small cube and vanished before Goten's eyes. This was Janemba's ability decomposition/Bunkai teleport. Humph. Such a trick won't work on me, Goten sneered. His left hand quickly gathered energy and unleashed an energy blast directly behind him. At that moment, Janemba's body had just reassembled behind Goten. Boom! The energy ball struck him solidly. His body was sent flying by the force of the blast. Yah! Janemba let out a sharp cry upon landing. It was evident that Goten's previous attack had angered him. After all, he had never faced such humiliation in previous battles. Suddenly, a mirror-like crack in a different space materialized in front of Janemba, and he unleashed a direct punch. Although Goten was familiar with Janemba's attack patterns, he couldn't pinpoint the exact location of Janemba's strike. Before he could react, he was heavily struck on the back. His body was propelled forward. Ha! Goten clenched his fist, and a grass-green aura erupted from his body. It instantly stabilized his stance. Simultaneously, the aura dissipated. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 48, Goten vs. Janemba. Scion Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 48, Goten vs. Janemba. Chapter 48, Goten vs. Janemba. Janemba launched another attack. The fists continued to blast out, utilizing the ability of spatial teleport to relentlessly target Goten. Bang! 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 Goten was repeatedly struck in quick succession. To be honest, it's not easy to dodge such a sudden attack until you become familiar with this fighting technique. However, once he understood the attack pattern and became accustomed to the fighting style, dealing with it wasn't difficult at all. Despite being hit 7 or 8 times, Goten remained unharmed. The legendary Scion bloodline through fusion had significantly enhanced his physical strength. Yah! Janemba threw another punch. Ah, here? Goten muttered under his breath. Then, he swiftly turned his head and unleashed a direct punch. Boom! Within the next moment, the two fists collided with great force. An overwhelming shockwave instantly rippled in all directions. The terrifying impact lifted the ground, causing nearby mountain peaks to crumble. One after another, they disintegrated into powder like tofu crumbs. Krillin leaped into the air, suspending himself midair. Although his strength paled in comparison to Goten and Janemba, he remained unscathed by the shockwave. Following the punch collision, Janemba's fist swiftly retracted. His body staggered backward, retreating a dozen steps. Meanwhile, in the Supreme Kai world and on the planet of the Great Kai, everyone watched the match with grave expressions. If Goten were to lose, the entire world would plunge into an immense crisis. The power possessed by Janemba had the potential to annihilate the entire universe. This being was the embodiment of all evil energies, devoid of any trace of kindness or benevolence. Only malevolence and boundless destruction resided within. Goten, you must persevere. You have to defeat this guy. Supreme Kai-Shing clenched his fists tightly, beads of sweat forming on his forehead, silently rooting for Goten. This level of combat was simply beyond their participation. Even the shockwaves generated from their battle could potentially kill them instantly. All they could do now was offer silent prayers, hoping that Goten would emerge victorious against Janemba. If Master Beerus were here, he could obliterate that Janemba in an instant. But for now, Lord Beerus slumbers. The elder Supreme Kai pondered secretly in his heart. He knew better than anyone that the mightiest warrior in the universe wasn't Bu or Goten. It was Lord Beerus. He possessed an unimaginable power. Throughout the entire universe, there was no warrior who could rival Lord Beerus. However, at present, Master Beerus slept soundly, completely disinterested in the events unfolding. Should this situation persist and Goten fall in defeat, upon Master Beerus's awakening, the Janemba would likely lay waste to most of the universe. Simultaneously, on King Kai's planet, everyone observed the battle on Earth through King Kai's abilities. Holding their breath, they watched with utmost seriousness. "Goten, you must win. Come on, Goten." Goku and Gohan silently prayed within their hearts. But, damn. We can only remain in this place and watch that brat fight. Ugh. Vegeta clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth. It should be him, the Prince Vegeta, who was battling Janemba right now. But, he was too powerful, making Vegeta feel weak. This kind of weakness infuriated Vegeta. Clearly, he was the most talented Saiyan Prince. Yet, time and time again, he became a mere backdrop to Kakarot and his son. You don't need to worry too much. Goten doesn't seem nervous at all, which means he's confident in defeating Janemba. King Kai tried to console the extremely anxious crowd. Of course, it was just words of comfort. After all, everyone knew how formidable Janemba was. Meanwhile, on Earth, Goten and Janemba engaged in another intense confrontation. Having realized that his spatial teleport ability posed no threat to Goten, Janemba abandoned its use. Because once Goten grew accustomed to that style of play, it would be ineffective against him. So now, the real battle began. Whoosh! Whoosh! Bang! 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 The two fighters' bodies rapidly crisscrossed each other. Two streaks of black in the sky collided incessantly, accompanied by the sound of low impacts. Sinkholes continuously formed on the ground, causing a large area to collapse. What incredible speed, what astonishing power! These two are truly monsters. Krillin furrowed his brow, watching the battle before him with utmost seriousness. At this moment, he couldn't keep up with the movements of Goten and Janemba at all. Even his power-sensing ability failed to accurately determine their positions. Boom! 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 Sonic booms continued to reverberate in the sky. Crackling golden lightning accompanied the spectacle. This scene resembled similar to that of the Namek. Boom! Once again, a low crash resounded. Janemba's body was sent flying upside down. Crashing heavily into the ground, it slid hundreds of feet before coming to a halt. A clear fist imprint appeared on Janemba's chest. The light purple armor on his chest also displayed cracks. Clearly, Goten's previous attack had dealt significant damage to Janemba. Great job, Goten. Keep going. Defeat him completely. Seeing Janemba blown away by a single punch, Krillin shouted with excitement. It seemed that although Janemba was formidable, he was still no match for Goten. Simultaneously, alongside the damage inflicted upon Janemba, a familiar electronic synthesized sound echoed in Goten's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring the decomposition teleport ability. Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring the dimensional hole space ability. So fast this time? Upon hearing the electronic synthesized sound of the system, Goten was immediately surprised. Because whether it was against Cell or Broly in the past, he acquired their attributes almost at the last moment. But this time, he obtained Janemba's attribute before engaging in a serious fight. However, there was no combat bonus this time. Nevertheless, these two abilities were more useful to him now than raw combat power. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 49, Goten vs. Janemba Part LL. Scion Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 49, Goten vs. Janemba Part LL. Chapter 49, Goten vs. Janemba Part LL. Goten, finish off that guy in one strike. Don't hesitate, Goten. Great job, Goten. At this moment, on King Kai's home planet, Gohan and all the fighters were focused on the intense scene unfolding before them. Under their breath, they urged Goten to defeat Janemba quickly. Janemba possessed a powerful healing ability, and even a momentary hesitation could allow him to recover from his injuries. No need to worry, Goten will definitely eliminate Janemba. Hasn't anyone noticed? Goten has been fighting with his base form all this time. He hasn't even transformed into a Super Saiyan yet, which means he's still warming up. Observing the tense crowd, Piccolo spoke again. You must admit, this guy is a little more intelligent than the rest, and he remains calm. Since Goten started fighting until now, he's been using his regular base strength. He hasn't used any Super Saiyan transformations whatsoever. Even so, he managed to repel Janemba. Once he taps into his Super Saiyan power, he will undoubtedly surpass the Janemba. That's right. Goten hadn't used the Super Saiyan transformation at all. I was a bit too nervous earlier, but I didn't notice this issue. After hearing Piccolo's words, Goku and the others suddenly realized. On the other hand, Vegeta's expression became even more unpleasant. Damn brat! Could it be that Brat's normal strength has already surpassed Kakarot's Super Saiyan 3? Are you kidding? That's absolutely impossible. Vegeta felt a moment of doubt in his life. If his base power surpasses Kakarot's Super Saiyan 3. In other words, the current Goten can easily defeat all of them without relying on any transformations. How could such a brat exist? Meanwhile, in the realm of the Supreme Kai. Although they saw that Goten had gained the upper hand, Supreme Kai Shin's expression grew even more serious. Master Supreme Kai, what's the matter? Why do you suddenly look so troubled? Goten has such a clear advantage now, and he hasn't even transformed. After transforming, he will surely defeat Janemba effortlessly. Noticing the gravity on Supreme Kai Shin's face, Kibito tried to reassure him from the side. I don't know what's happening, but there's a strong sense of unease. It's as if something bad is about to occur. Supreme Kai Shin shook his head and spoke. Clearly, Goten has an absolute advantage now. If nothing goes wrong, Janemba will undoubtedly be defeated. But why does this feeling of unease persist in my heart? Kibito, let's go to Earth. After hesitating for a moment, Supreme Kai said to Kibito. This uneasiness must be connected to Earth. He needs to go there to confirm it before he can find peace of mind. Because their enemies now include not only Janemba, but also Majin Buu and the wizard Babidi. Those two are definitely formidable opponents. Okay, Lord Supreme Kai. Kibito quickly nodded. Elder, you stay in the Kai's realm. We'll go to Earth and investigate. After Supreme Kai Shin spoke with Elder Supreme Kai, the two of them departed from the Supreme Kai's realm directly. Using Kai's instant transmission, they arrived on Earth within seconds. Then, they appeared right beside Krillin. Who are you guys? Seeing the two individuals appearing beside him like ghosts, Krillin immediately assumed a defensive stance. Because nothing good had happened today, and all he had encountered were some troublemakers. The two individuals standing in front of him right now, judging by their peculiar attire, didn't seem to be from Earth either. Mr. Krillin, please don't misunderstand, we are not bad people. I am Supreme Kai from this universe and a friend of Goten's. We have known each other before. Supreme Kai Shin quickly explained. Through over an hour of observation earlier, he also knew that the bald man in front of him was a close friend of Goten's. His tone was naturally polite. Most importantly, this bald man seemed to possess considerable power. Supreme Kai? Goten has mentioned that just before, it seems. Upon hearing the other party reveal his identity, Krillin eased his guard. He also sensed that despite their peculiar attire, there was no trace of evil energy emanating from their bodies. Ugh! Meanwhile, the gaping wound in Janemba's chest began to rapidly heal. Then, a piercing scream echoed. Evidently, he was seething with anger at this moment. Because even when he was in the underworld before, Goku and the others, as a group, hadn't inflicted such damage on him. Yet this kid standing before him had actually caused him pain. Absolutely unforgivable. Janemba, your worth has expired. Next, I will eradicate you completely. Looking at the enraged and screaming Janemba, Goten spoke calmly. He hadn't exerted his full strength before, only to see Janemba's immense power. Now that he had seen it, Janemba naturally lost his worth in his eyes. Seemingly comprehending Goten's words, Janemba roared once again. Then he charged directly at Goten. Bring it on! Goten clenched his fists tightly, and intense emerald flames erupted from his body instantly. At this moment, he was noticeably stronger than before. Though he hadn't transformed into a Super Saiyan yet, it was sufficient to counter Janemba. After all, the potential within him had been unlocked by Elder Supreme Kai, building upon his legendary Saiyan bloodline to new heights. Even without transformation, his base power was already outrageously formidable. Observing Janemba swiftly approaching, Goten deftly evaded his attack at an elusive angle. Then, he delivered a forceful blow right to Janemba's face. As he pressed his palm down firmly, ferocious grass-green flames surged forth, forcefully driving Janemba's body into the ground. Rumble! The intense battle on the ground caused a massive sinkhole to appear. And Janemba's body was firmly pinned down by Goten. Simultaneously, a sphere of emerald energy rapidly condensed. At the moment of the energy ball's explosion, Janemba's body disintegrated, evading the blast. Whoosh! Goten's figure vanished, only to reappear behind Janemba in midair. By now, Goten's speed had already surpassed Janemba's. Boom! With a single kick, Janemba was sent flying thousands of feet away. But Goten pursued relentlessly. Bang, bang, bang. Successive shockwaves reverberated in the sky as Janemba was kicked around like a soccer ball. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 50, Goten vs. Janemba Part LLL. Scion Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 50, Goten vs. Janemba Part LLL. Chapter 50, Goten vs. Janemba Part LLL. At this particular moment, in a desolate location in the southwest of the East Capital. Inside the inverted spaceship, the light emitted by the light purple magic egg grew increasingly intense. Similar to a human heart, it continued to rise and fall. Ah ha ha ha. Such powerful energy. My Majin View, I'm finally on the verge of breaking the seal. Excitedly, the wicked sorcerer Babidi observed the magic egg pulsating like a heart. After waiting for so long, the energy is finally at its peak. Majin Buu is finally awakening. The entire world will soon fall into his hands. Congratulations, Lord Babidi. Pui Pui and Dabura hurriedly stepped forward to flatter him. Snort! After my Majin Buu awakens, you two insignificant fools will hold no value in existence. Magician Babidi glared at Pui Pui and Dabura, and then spoke in a cold tone. Since Majin Buu was not awake before, he sought the assistance of these two imbeciles to help Majin Buu gather energy. But now his own Majin Buu is on the verge of breaking the seal and waking up. At that point, there will be no need for these two sorry individuals to exist. Perfect timing to have his own Majin Buu as a snack. Babidi displayed an evil smile. That wicked smile made the hearts of both Dabura and Pui Pui tense. However, they had no choice. They were under Bobidi's control. If Dabura even had the slightest idea of rebelling, he would experience the most excruciating pain imaginable. Slowly dying in agony. Bobidi's wicked sorcery had a greater effect on those who were more evil, exerting stronger control over them. The two of them could be considered the most vicious sort. So Babidi speculated that they might be eliminated. Buzz buzz. At this moment, the pink magic egg emitted an even more dazzling light and shook more violently. Magician Babidi danced with excitement. Click. In the next second, a crisp sound rang out. Immediately afterward, the pink magic egg split directly into two halves, and a puff of pink smoke emerged from the egg. In an instant, it left the Bobidi spaceship. My Majin Buu quickly follow after him. After seeing the empty shell before him, Babidi also realized that the pink smoke from earlier was Majin Buu. Because Majin Buu had the ability to atomize himself completely. Yes, Lord Babidi. Both Pui Pui and Dabura nodded rapidly. Then, they quickly exited the spaceship. Meanwhile, on the other side, Goten had already pummeled Janemba into the ground. At this point, Janemba had various degrees of injuries on his body, and his light purple armor was in tatters. The malevolent aura had also considerably weakened. Great job, Goten. Janemba is about to meet his end. Krillin's face was filled with excitement. Because the current Janemba had completely lost the ability to defend himself. He was only being pushed down and mercilessly beaten by Goten. At that moment, Supreme Kai Shin, who stood beside Krillin, suddenly grew solemn. Master Supreme Kai, what's wrong? Why are you worried? Observing the change in Supreme Kai's expression, Kibito inquired once more. Majin Buu, it's Majin Buu's evil energy. Supreme Kai Shin's body trembled instantly. He had just sensed an incredibly familiar aura. This malevolent aura had been deeply engraved in the depths of his soul. He could unmistakably detect even the slightest trace of it. Indeed, it was the aura of Majin Buu. There was absolutely no mistake. Nani? Majin Buu. Kibito was instantly shocked. But he didn't sense any presence at all. Majin Buu? What's that? Krillin looked puzzled. He had never heard the name Majin Buu before. But when you hear the word devil, you know it definitely isn't something good. Observing Supreme Kai's panicked expression, it was clear that Majin Buu was another formidable opponent to deal with. Before Supreme Kai could explain, a cloud of pink smoke flew towards them in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the sky was obscured. Everyone looked up in surprise, finding the sky completely covered by pink clouds. An evil aura permeated the air. Oh? Has Majin Buu appeared? It seems that the energy released during the battle broke his seal. Well, that's convenient. We can obtain Majin Buu's super regeneration ability and eliminate them together. Goten gazed up at the entirely pink sky, realizing it was Majin Buu's doing. And that malevolent aura couldn't be mistaken. But that was exactly what he wanted. Although Majin Buu's super regeneration ability wasn't as powerful as immortality granted by the Super Shenron, it was still incredibly strong. If he could obtain it, it would be advantageous. What a powerful evil aura, not much weaker than Janemba. Are you kidding me? How did we suddenly end up with so many formidable enemies? After sensing the immense power of Majin Buu's aura, Krillin frowned. Dealing with Janemba alone was already quite challenging. And now they had another adversary comparable to Janemba. In this situation, Krillin wasn't sure if Goten could handle it. And just as everyone was taken aback, the pink clouds in the sky swiftly approached. In an instant, before everyone's eyes, the gray clouds transformed into a plump human figure. Fat Buu had also been reborn. He gently descended to the ground, then gleefully spun around in circles. Ho 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 ho! An expression of excitement played across his face. Perhaps being sealed for so long, it was natural to feel some exhilaration upon regaining freedom. At that moment, Majin Buu resembled a naive 3-year-old child. So, is that guy really strong? He looks like a fool. Krillin glanced at Majin Buu, who continued to spin in circles, and couldn't help but complain. Despite sensing that immensely powerful evil aura earlier, the chubby pink figure in front of him still appeared cute. It didn't match the image of a demon at all. No, it's true, he is Majin Buu, and I can never forget it. Supreme Kai Shin spoke with a trembling body. Even though he knew that Goten was strong enough to confront Majin Buu, overcoming the deep-rooted fear was a challenge in itself. Just as everyone's attention shifted towards Majin Buu, Janemba, who faced Goten, suddenly underwent a transformation. Ku, ku, ku. A shrill cry escaped Janemba's mouth, and a look of struggle appeared on his face. But soon, the expression of struggle vanished. Then, a distinctive symbol resembling the letter M appeared between Janemba's eyebrows. Nah. Nani? Janemba is now under Babbidi's control. Supreme Kai stammered in fear upon seeing the symbol between Janemba's eyebrows. He. Supreme Kai, I've finally found you. Immediately after, a sinister laugh echoed from a nearby location. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 51, Majin Buu appeared. Goten vs. Janemba Part LLL. Scion Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 51, Majin Buu appeared. Goten vs. Janemba and Majin Buu Part 50. Chapter 51, Majin Buu appeared. Goten vs. Janemba and Majin Buu Part 50. Babidi, you despicable scoundrel. Supreme Kai Shin clenched his fists tightly. This guy was truly as bothersome as his father and equally wicked. You talk tough, Supreme Kai. You can go and join my father later. Babidi smirked wretchedly once again. In that moment, he also noticed that Goten was the main force among this group of people. He immediately commanded Majin Buu and Janemba, hey, you two, go and kill that brat for me right now. Janemba seemed to have no intention of opposing the order at all, possibly due to being composed of pure evil energy, which made Babbidi's control over him even stronger. However, the presence of Grand Supreme Kai within Fat Buu's body seemed to create some psychological resistance. A pair of small eyes narrowed into crescents, fixating on Babbidi. The commanding tone did not sit well with him. Majin Buu, do you want to be sealed away again? Upon seeing Fat Buu's displeased expression, Babbidi immediately issued a threat. Sure enough, Fat Buu became much more obedient in an instant. Having just regained his freedom and experiencing the value of it, he naturally didn't want to be sealed again. Then, he fiercely glared at Goten as if he wanted to unleash all his anger on him. Oh, 2 against 1, huh? It seems like I finally get to have a good fight. Goten glanced at Majin Buu and Janemba, both of them appearing pumped up. He had no worries. Because even if the two of them teamed up, they could never be his match. Yeah! Majin Buu and Janemba screamed almost simultaneously, rushing directly towards Goten. The speed of the two seemed evenly matched as they reached Goten in an instant. Subsequently, they unleashed attacks from both sides, delivering powerful blows. Goten calmly opened his arms and responded with his palms. Boom! Rumble! The moment their fists collided with Goten's palms, the ground beneath them collapsed. Cracks spread like a spider web, rapidly expanding. Waves of dust billowed out. Ha, ha! Goten suddenly exploded, and vivid grass-green flames like ki burst forth from his body. The terrifying aura pushed both of them back tens of meters. Nani? Why is that kid so strong? When did such a formidable individual appear in the universe? Observing Majin Buu and Janemba being effortlessly pushed back, Babidi displayed surprise and fear on his face. He had never encountered such a powerful warrior in the universe before. And from the looks of it, he was still just a child. To be safe, Babidi immediately commanded Dabura and Pui Pui beside him, "You two, bring Supreme Kai to me right now. I want to personally eliminate the one who killed my father." "Yes, Lord Babidi." Dabura and Pui Pui nodded in agreement. Their bloodthirsty gaze shifted towards Supreme Kai. The Demon Lord. Dabura. This guy is actually being controlled by Babidi. Upon seeing Demon Lord Dabura, Supreme Kai once again displayed a terrified expression. There was no way around it since Demon Lord Dabura possessed the power to kill him and Kibito in an instant. Kibito, standing by Supreme Kai's side, was also filled with dread. He was well aware of Demon Lord Dabura's strength, which was simply beyond what he and Supreme Kai could handle. "Mr. Supreme Kai, leave those two to me." Krillin stepped forward from the side and addressed Supreme Kai. Although he didn't know why these two gods were so fearful of those two individuals, he didn't sense much power emanating from their bodies. He believed he could handle both of them alone. Can you, Mr. Krillin?" Supreme Kai asked hurriedly. "The strength of Demon Lord Dabura is outrageous. Don't be reckless, let's fight together." Kibito also earnestly said to Krillin, "Krillin, please don't underestimate Demon Lord Dabura's power. We should join forces." Krillin shook his head, rejecting the idea directly. "No, I can handle it alone." Krillin's self-confidence might stem from his lack of knowledge about the true strength of Demon Lord Dabura. Those two aren't strong to begin with. "Besides, I want to enhance my skills through actual combat," he added. After speaking, Krillin swiftly moved. In an instant, he appeared right beside Dabura and Pui. "What? So fast?" Dabura and Pui Pui exclaimed in shock as they looked at Krillin's sudden appearance. They hadn't paid much attention to the seemingly ordinary bald-headed guy. They never expected him to be so fast, appearing right beside them before they could even comprehend what had happened. Pui Pui, in particular, was terrified. "Halt! Earth doesn't belong to scoundrels like you, let alone a place for scoundrels to wreak havoc." Krillin frowned, and with those cold words, he threw a direct punch. Pui Pui's body was pierced directly by Krillin's punch. After all, this guy's strength was truly weak. In the original story, his power couldn't even match that of base-level Goku and Vegeta. At this point, Krillin already possessed the power of Super Perfect Cell from before, so defeating Pui Pui was a simple task. Dabura, seething with anger, cursed, "Damn bald head." The two engaged in a fierce battle. On the other side, the fight was equally intense. Although the combination of Majin Buu and Janemba was formidable, Goten could still handle it. Boom! Once again, the three fists collided. This time, Janemba and Majin Buu were sent flying hundreds of feet backward, while Goten was pushed back only a few steps. The combined strength of these two shouldn't be underestimated. And after being under Babiti's control earlier, Janemba's power has clearly improved significantly. It seems that if I want to eliminate them completely, I'll have to transform into a legendary Super Saiyan form. Kneading his fist, Goten pondered silently. To eliminate them completely. With that thought, Goten tightly clenched his fists. Ha, ha, ha. A deep roar erupted from his throat. With the roar, the ground trembled violently. His aura became unimaginably powerful. Hum rumble. The earth shook violently, and even the lands surrounding it trembled incessantly. Even Goku and the others on the Grand Kai's planet could feel this overwhelming aura. It was shocking. Absolutely astonishing. Oh my god. Is this really Goten's power? It's too terrifying. Krillin, who was fighting Dabura, suddenly stopped and stared at Goten in utter horror. His eyes filled with disbelief. Dabura, on the other hand, was utterly frightened. At that moment, Goten's body was completely engulfed in vivid grass-green flames. Finally, Goten is going to transform. Kibito's face lit up with indescribable excitement and anticipation. They had witnessed Goten's transformation before. That kind of transformation was so awe-inspiring that words couldn't do it justice. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 52, Goten vs Janemba and Majin Buu Part LL. Saiyan Dragon Ball, Real Author. Chapter 52, Goten vs Janemba and Majin Buu Part LL. Chapter 52, Goten vs Janemba and Majin Buu Part LL. And at that moment, on King Kai's planet, all the spectators of the battle were utterly astonished. The aura of a single mortal warrior from the northern galaxy was directly transmitted to the Supreme Kai's planet. Such a thing was unheard of, and they had never even contemplated such an audacious occurrence. Wow! Goten is incredibly powerful. His aura can be felt even from here, exclaimed Goku in excitement, sensing Goten's immensely potent energy. Oh my god! What's happening to Goten? This aura is unbelievably strong. Gohan's mouth hung wide open, taken aback by the sheer magnitude of it. It's important to note that each of them is a highly skilled Saiyan warrior. But now, compared to Goten, they seemed insignificant, like mere novices, with no chance of comparison whatsoever. Enough! There should be a limit to joking around. It's one thing to surpass us, but this brat has gone a bit too far. Vegeta felt a surge of anger building up inside him. Especially after seeing Trunks beside him, he wished he could just slap him and make him faint. He were also Saiyan warriors of mixed heritage, with bloodlines more noble than Kakarot's. Yet Kakarot's son had grown so powerful while Trunks still remained in his Super Saiyan form. More importantly, among this group of individuals, Trunks was the weakest. The thought of the disparity between his son and Kakarot's son fueled Vegeta's fury even more. That boy Goten is truly a monstrous existence. I can't fathom how he managed to attain this level of power in less than 10 years, Piccolo expressed his astonishment. In fact, they had been observing the happenings on Earth over the past few years. However, during that time, Goten hadn't displayed anything particularly noteworthy aside from his determination. And there was nothing exceptional about his training either. So why had he suddenly become so formidable? It feels like the gap between us has widened even further. What has happened to that kid? Dad, Uncle Piccolo, why has the energy around Goten turned green now? The aura of this color seems identical to the one Broly had around him back then. Gohan questioned skeptically at that moment. They had transformed countless times before, but their transformations were always the same, golden hair and golden ki. Yet now, what Goten was emitting was a grass-green aura. This aura was nearly identical to the one emitted by Broly in the southern galaxy. It was all so peculiar. I'm not entirely sure either. When I sensed his energy before, the key released by Goten was the same as ours. Goku shook his head, clueless about what was happening. Perhaps this is Goten's trump card. When the time isn't right, it's not so easily revealed. Could it be related to Broly's last fight? Piccolo asked uncertainly. Because Goten hadn't displayed this green aura prior to his battle with Broly. Ha ha ha. Kakarot, don't you understand? You may be a low-level Saiyan warrior, but your son possesses the bloodline of the legendary Super Saiyan. Ha ha. Vegeta smiled with delight and wore a smug expression. Goku looked perplexed, not comprehending what Vegeta was trying to convey. Just as everyone on King Kai's planet was incredibly surprised. Goten completed his transformation at that very moment. Rustle. The grass-green aura surged around his body like a raging flame. At this moment, his power reached an unprecedented height, countless times stronger than when he first attained the legendary Super Saiyan form. Clearly, this transformation had a lot to do with the Elder Supreme Kai's assistance in unlocking his potential. Oh my god! This is unbelievable! Is this really Goten? Krillin asked skeptically. This kid seems different from the Goten I know. After transforming into the legendary Super Saiyan form, Goten's height shot up to 1.8 meters. His body was covered with solid muscles, and his grass-green hair danced in the wind, surrounded by surging flames akin to boiling molten lava. The flames fluttered, producing a crisp sound. His golden eyes exuded confidence and rebellion. Babble? Woo! Majin Buu and Janemba looked at Goten, who had undergone such a dramatic transformation, with expressions of surprise and fear on their faces. Then their expressions turned serious. Even if they were irrational beings, they could instinctively sense the strength and danger posed by their opponent. Majin Buu, Janemba, what are you two hesitating about? Hurry up and kill that brat! Babidi immediately yelled at Majin Buu and Janemba when he sensed that something was amiss. He had complete control over Janemba, so he knew his origin and name. His intuition told him that the kid in front of him was incredibly terrifying. He was feeling a level of disturbance in his heart that he had never experienced before. Ku. Yeah. Majin Buu and Janemba became visibly angry due to the fear in their hearts. They roared, baring their teeth, and charged at Goten once again. Now, I won't let you cause any more chaos. Goten's mouth curled into a smile, and in an instant, he disappeared from sight. Before the two villains could react, Goten seized their heads with both hands and forcefully pushed them into the hard ground, creating a deep pit. Energy waves exploded from his palms, reducing Majin Buu and Janemba's bodies to a puddle of wriggling meat paste. However, Janemba's body reformed behind Goten. Although he had been seriously injured by the explosion, he was still persistently attacking. Yah! With a sharp roar, Janemba attempted a sneak attack, but Goten swiftly turned around and released a silver-white energy ball that he planted on Janemba's chest. Go back to your hell. This is not a place for you to cause trouble. As the chilling words left Goten's lips, the energy ball detonated with a low explosion, engulfing Janemba's body. Like a candle in the wind, he disappeared with the force of the blast, and his presence vanished entirely. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 53, Legendary Super Saiyan Goten vs Majin Buu Part 50. Saiyan Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author / translator Zach, King, Rex. Chapter 53, Legendary Super Saiyan Goten vs Majin Buu Part 50. Chapter 53, Legendary Super Saiyan Goten vs Majin Buu Part 50. On the opposite side, those pink pieces of meat on the ground have reassembled and transformed into the appearance of Fat Buu. A pair of small eyes narrowed into two crescents, emitting a scarlet light. Woo woo woo. Accompanied by the sound of steam like the pressure cooker, a lot of steam escaped from Majin Buu's head. A large amount of white steam rapidly condensed, forming a white cloud above his head. This cloud appeared to have life, squirming crazily like a ball of mud. It looked more like a cloud of white venom. As it wriggled, the white clouds quickly took the shape of a person. What's going on? Krillin observed this scene in surprise. Why does the steam ejected from Majin Buu's body change into a human shape? These guys are all weirder and scarier than the others. Both Supreme Kai and Kibito shook their heads, unsure of what was happening either. Amid everyone's surprise and doubt, the white cloud fully transformed into a person. The new entity looked similar to Majin Buu, but there was a vast difference in body shape and skin color. The newly formed guy had darker purple skin and a bony structure. There was no trace of Fat Buu's kindness and now only incomparable evil in his eyes. This scene completely puzzled Krillin and Supreme Kai. Of course, the fat puppet looked at Skinny Buu with a puzzled expression. "I've been waiting for you." Goten sneered because he understood the situation better than anyone. When Fat Buu was extremely angry, the evil part of his body separated automatically, forming Skinny Buu. So the Fat Buu in front of him is kind now, but the Thin Buu is pure evil. Like the previous Janemba, there was no kindness in his heart. He was entirely composed of pure evil. The moment the voice fell, Goten's body flashed, and he appeared directly in front of Skinny Buu. Then a silver energy ball quickly condensed in the palm of his hand. Before Skinny Buu could react, the energy ball had already hit him. "You don't need to exist anymore." At the same time as the extremely indifferent voice fell, the energy wave blasted out directly. "Yah!" Skinny Buu didn't react at all, and accompanied by a sharp roar, his body was swallowed by energy bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into nothingness. Although Majin Buu had an extremely strong recovery ability, if all his cells were destroyed in an instant with absolute power, then he could no longer be resurrected. At the same time, the system's electronically synthesized voice rang in his mind again. "Ding! Congratulations to the host for acquiring Majin Buu's super regeneration ability." As if expected, Goten did not show too much excitement. "My! Majin Buu! Impossible! How did that brat kill my Majin Buu in an instant?" The magician Babidi was completely dumbfounded. Originally, he thought that after Majin Buu recovered, he would be able to control the entire universe. But he didn't expect Majin Buu to break the seal in less than half an hour. The brat in front of him had actually killed another Majin Buu. And the current Fat Buu was obviously no match for this new entity, and it was very likely that he would end up the same way. Demon King Dabura also stopped fighting a long time ago. At this moment, his whole body trembled with fear. Because the little devil in front of him was incredibly powerful. They knew that the guy had the strength to kill them instantly. At this moment, they had only one thought in their minds: to leave this dangerous place as soon as possible. Intuition told them that if they continued to stay here, it would only lead to a dead end. "Lord Babidi, we need to get out of here quickly. Majin Buu doesn't stand a chance against that brat. If we stay any longer, we'll be killed." Demon Lord Dabura quickly lowered his voice and said to Magician Babidi. Leaving this place gave them a chance to make a comeback in the future. "But, my Majin Buu." Magician Babidi looked hesitant. "Are you going to abandon Majin Buu after releasing him from the seal?" But now, it seemed they had no other choice. If Majin Buu could hold them off for a while, they could escape successfully. "Alright. Let's go." After struggling for a while, Magician Babidi finally made up his mind. "It stings a bit, but it's better than dying here." Then the two of them turned around and flew in the opposite direction. "Do you think you can leave just like that?" "Not so fast." Looking at Magician Babidi turning around to run away, Goten said indifferently. Using Kai Kai, he appeared directly in front of the two of them. "What do you want to do?" "Brat, don't overstep your boundaries." Magician Babidi and Demon King Dabura were instantly frightened. They knew very well that their strength was insignificant compared to the kid in front of them. They had no chance to fight him at all. "Me? Of course, I'm sending you to hell." I think hell might be more suitable for you bastards. Goten's tone remained indifferent. Although these three guys were minor players, their strength was even more vulnerable. But leaving them alone and allowing them to escape to other places might bring harm to other planets. After all, Dabura, as a demon king, could be considered a top-level existence on other planets. Brat, stop being self-righteous. Don't think you have the ability to kill me. Demon King Dabura seemed to feel his dignity was being insulted. As he spoke, he spat out a mouthful of saliva. To others, this might seem like a desperate act of defiance. But Goten and Supreme Kai knew well that this guy's saliva was different from ordinary saliva. If it touched the body, it would instantly petrify the affected area. Goten! Watch out for Dabura's drool. Supreme Kai immediately reminded him. However, his reminder seemed unnecessary. Dabura's saliva was vaporized before it could touch the green aura surrounding Goten's body. Ha! Goten clenched his fists and unleashed his energy in an instant. The bodies of Dabura and magician Babidi disintegrated instantly in the face of this terrifying force. It seems my reminder was a bit redundant. Supreme Kai said embarrassedly. Then he turned his gaze to Fat Bu. Now, they just needed to get rid of Fat Bu, and everything would be settled. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 54, Legendary Super... Chapter 54, Legendary Super Saiyan Goten vs. Fat/Innocent Bu Part LL. Chapter 54, Legendary Super Saiyan Goten vs. Fat/Innocent Bu Part LL. At this moment, Fat Bu appeared puzzled, as if he had suddenly lost his sense of direction. Before, he had fought Goten because he was threatened by the orders of the magician Babidi. If he refused to fight, Babidi would have sealed him again. However, now that Babidi was dead, there was no need to obey any orders. Majin Buu's IQ wasn't very high, but he understood clearly that he shouldn't mess with the formidable Goten standing before him. Attacking Goten would likely lead to his own demise, a fear deeply ingrained in all living beings, even Majin Buu. So there he stood, with a bewildered expression on his face. Suddenly, Supreme Kai Shin flashed in front of Goten in an instant, urging him, Goten, hurry and finish off Majin Buu. If you take care of him, everything will settle down. Allowing him to escape would be disastrous for the entire universe. This wasn't an unreasonable request, considering the horrifying memory of Majin Buu absorbing and killing the Supreme Kai. The fear was etched into their souls, an unforgettable trauma. No, I won't kill him, Goten responded firmly to Supreme Kai Shin's plea. I already destroyed the evil inside Majin Buu, and now he's not a bad guy. With proper guidance, he can become a warrior who can protect the earth. Goten believed that this Majin Buu was like a blank slate. If influenced by evil, he would turn evil, but with a kind-hearted mentor, he could become a force for good. On Earth, there were only two warriors currently, himself and Mr. Krillin. Having Majin Buu as an ally would be beneficial for protecting the planet, especially since Goten couldn't be on Earth forever. Supreme Kai Shin was taken aback by this idea. Majin Buu had once effortlessly transformed hundreds of planets into Death Stars, so the notion of him being an Earth protector seemed challenging to understand. However, Goten reassured him, Lord Supreme Kai, I have a plan. Even if Majin Buu turns evil again, I have enough power to deal with him. Remembering that Majin Buu had become a protector of Earth in the Dragon Ball Super series, Goten was confident in his decision. Supreme Kai Shin had to accept Goten's resolve. If Goten believed he could handle Majin Buu, then there was nothing more to say. In an instant, Goten appeared directly in front of Majin Buu and calmly informed him, Buu, I've dealt with the one who controlled you, Babidi. Now you have two options, become a warrior who protects the earth or be defeated by me right now. Fat Bu seemed stunned as he grasped the gravity of Goten's ultimatum. Deep down, he was aware that there were Supreme King Kai inside him. Ha! Fat Bu exclaimed, clearly contemplating the weight of Goten's words. At this critical moment, the fate of Majin Buu hangs in the balance, and the decisions made now will determine the course of events in the universe. Then a smile appeared on Fat Boo's face as he chose the former option. Despite his low IQ, he still understood fear, otherwise, he wouldn't have been threatened by Babidi in the first place. Very good. It seems you are very smart, praised Goten. However, I still want to make one thing clear. If you do anything harmful to the Earth, I will send you to hell without hesitation. Goten spoke with a serious tone, emphasizing that he would take decisive action if necessary. Although Fat Bu seemed pure now, Goten couldn't guarantee he would always be a good guy. He vowed to eliminate him if he posed a threat to the Earth. The innocent Bu closed his eyes tightly and nodded, indicating his agreement with Goten's conditions. In this situation, there was no other choice but to agree. While Supreme Kaishin still had some worries, he had no option but to trust Goten at this point. He approached Goten and expressed his gratitude. Goten, now that the crisis is over, Kibito and I are going back. Thank you very much for your help. Without you, the entire universe would have been in a huge crisis. Goten humbly replied, "It's all right, Supreme Kai. This matter concerns the safety of the Earth, so helping you is like helping myself." He then reverted to his normal form, the legendary Super Saiyan transformation coming to an end. Thank you anyway. We'll see each other again. Supreme Kai bid farewell with a smile, and after Kibito greeted Goten as well, they both used Kai Kai to return to the Supreme Kai world. Concerned, Krillin approached Goten and asked about Majin Bu. Goten, is it really okay for this guy to stay on Earth? He's too strong. If he loses control, he could cause catastrophic damage. Goten reassured his friend, patting Majin Bu's shoulder lightly, "No problem, I trust Bu." Grateful for Goten's trust, innocent Bu was touched. He never expected a human to believe in him this way. "Okay, I trust you," Krillin said, accepting Goten's judgment. "Let's head back then." There was quite a commotion on Earth just now, and Chi-Chi and the others must be very worried. "Of course, and your big girlfriend." Krillin teased with a smirk, referring to Vidal's obvious fondness for Goten. Blushing slightly, Goten responded, "Well, let's head back." They used Kai Kai, quickly returning to Fire Mountain. The events had caused quite a stir, and Goten knew his mother would be anxious. After all, she was his only family in this world. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 55? Scion Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 55, Chapter 55? Chapter 55? And at this time, on the planet of King Kai. Fantastic. Have all the problems finally been solved? Goten, that boy, is truly incredibly powerful. I can't help but want to challenge him. Upon witnessing the resolution of all the problems, Goku exclaimed with great excitement. Indeed, as expected of his own son, possessing immense strength while maintaining a kind heart. He didn't vanquish Majin Bu completely. Instead, he eliminated the evil part of Majin Bu's body, leaving behind the benevolent Majin Bu. Goten, I wonder what kind of training he underwent to reach such extraordinary levels of power. Gohan still appeared quite surprised. Each of these scions is considered a prodigious warrior. However, when compared to Goten, there seems to be a significant gap. I'm quite fond of young Goten. Despite his immense strength, he remains unaffected by it. He continues to possess a kind heart, much like both of you. Piccolo glanced at Goku and Gohan, expressing relief. By sparing the benevolent Majin Bu, it's clear that Goten's heart remains kind. Resisting the sway of immense power isn't an easy feat, especially at such a young age. It's worth noting that Goku's wife deserves the most gratitude for this. Without her guidance, it would have been impossible to raise such an exceptional son. At this moment, even King Kai chimed in. Only Vegeta remained silent, his face contorted with anger. Observing Trunks standing beside him, he almost wished to lash out in frustration. Being of mixed Saiyan heritage and roughly the same age, Trunks was actually a year older than Goten. However, the disparity in their strengths was evident. While Trunks remained rather naive, Goten had matured beyond his years. He. Suddenly, I'm really eager to return to Earth and see everything. Goku's naive smile lit up the moment as he spoke to everyone. Previously, he believed there was no need for repeated resurrections. He believed in following the natural course of development and leaving the past behind. Yet Goten's appearance and incredible strength had ignited a restlessness within him. Humph. Don't think I don't understand your intentions, Kakarot. You just want to fight against Goten? With all due respect, with your current strength, you couldn't even defeat that kid in his normal state. Vegeta's cold gaze pierced Goku before he continued with unfiltered honesty. And his assessment was accurate. That was indeed Goku's underlying motivation. Returning to Earth was primarily to challenge Goten's power. And he knew that even transforming into a Super Saiyan 3 might not guarantee victory against Goten's base form. He caught off guard, Goku could only awkwardly smile in response. Goku, do you truly wish to visit Earth? Do you genuinely want to face off against Goten? At this point, King Kai interjected. He understood Goku well. If the opportunity to battle Goten was unavailable, Goku would never find contentment. As it happened, he had a solution to fulfill Goku's desire. Absolutely, Lord Kai. I do want to take on Goten for a spar. You know, I can't help but get incredibly thrilled when I encounter such an immensely powerful individual. Goku nodded affirmatively, his excitement palpable. Then I have a proposition. King Kai continued. What is it, King Kai? Please, do tell. Goku's impatience was evident as he urged for an answer. Vegeta and Piccolo also stared intently at King Kai, curious about his idea. They pondered what kind of solution he could offer. One that would allow them to see the spar with Goku and Goten without requiring resurrection. You all sacrificed yourselves to save Earth. You're the heroes who safeguarded the planet. According to the rules, I can grant you a special day to return to Earth and enjoy it. But after one day, you'll need to return here. Facing their intense gazes, King Kai's tone turned serious. Naturally, this reason he cited was a fabrication. Given Goku's status as his apprentice, he felt a responsibility to help Goku realize this wish. This is fantastic. Thank you, King Kai. Goku's gratitude overflowed with excitement. Though unsure about the legitimacy of King Kai's explanation, the prospect of returning to Earth to challenge Goten thrilled him. Even a single day would suffice. Hey Kakarot, since we only have a day on Earth, let's choose a date half a month from now. Vegeta suddenly interjected with a solemn expression. Ha? Why wait for half a month, Vegeta? I can't wait any longer. Goku regarded Vegeta with skepticism and inquiry, questioning the reason for the delay. Is half a month the perfect time? Listen. Because your current strength is far too inadequate. Even in the past, you couldn't match Goten's normal state. Half a month provides just enough time to train and significantly improve your power. I'm doing this for your own benefit. Vegeta's voice carried a chilly edge as he addressed Goku. This revelation left everyone present astonished. Vegeta, usually indifferent, was actually considering Goku's well-being for once. But Piccolo harbored doubts regarding Vegeta's true motives. Clearly, Vegeta had his own agenda. Regarding Goku's interests, it seemed more like an excuse. Half a month later conveniently aligned with Bulma's birthday. After 8 years apart, he couldn't deny missing Bulma to some extent. Though he'd never vocalize it, these feelings remained hidden within. And Trunks, now 8 years old, hadn't seen Bulma for as long as he could recall. This timing would allow Trunks to reunite with Bulma on her birthday. Very well. Vegeta's right. With my current strength, I wouldn't even match Goten's normal state. This half month will be valuable for focused training and enhancing my abilities. Goku didn't bother verifying Vegeta's claims, yet they made sense. His present strength simply wouldn't suffice to take on Goten. So in the coming weeks, he would train diligently, hoping to bridge the gap before the match. A showdown with Goten at his full power awaited. At least, that's how it seems to him. Afterward, they returned to King Kai's planet and began training intensively. Back on Earth. After using God's version of instant transmission, Goten quickly arrived at the door of the house. However, he hesitated before entering, as he overheard a heated conversation between Videl and Chi-Chi. Wow! You have 50 rooms in your house? Seriously, Videl, your family is incredibly wealthy. I suddenly have a vision that you and my Goten are a perfect match. You're so lovely and beautiful, just like my strong and handsome boy. Both of you are like a match made in heaven, a golden couple. Believe me, there's no one else in the world worthy of you except my Goten. Chi-Chi's voice was unusually loud, and Goten and Krillin at the door could clearly hear them. See, Goten, I think the same way. I also believe you two are a perfect match. Even though Videl's strength isn't great, she's still beautiful, right? And her family background is quite impressive, except for her unreliable father. Krillin chimed in after hearing Chi-Chi's voice. From the moment he met them, he felt that Gohan and Videl were a great match. They seemed perfectly suited for each other. Surprisingly, Chi-Chi shared the same sentiment. It was rare for them to be in agreement. Moreover, as the saying goes, the younger wife holds a golden brick. Videl is older than you by 7 or 8 years, so you're holding quite a golden brick. Krillin laughed as he teased. 3 golden bricks would be quite a load for most people. 3 golden bricks. Are you trying to exhaust me? Goten joked. Their banter was light-hearted, but the final decision still rested with them. At that moment, another voice emerged from the room. Aunt Chi-Chi, I'm much older than Goten. And Goten doesn't seem to like me that much, so I doubt he'd accept me. Videl's shy voice reached their ears. It was clear that she had feelings for Goten. Otherwise, she wouldn't say such things. Don't worry, Goten is my son. I know him best as a mother. Goten is just young and a bit shy about matters like these. Since you're older than him, you might have to take the initiative. Let me tell you, if you miss this opportunity, you might not get another one. Chi-Chi hurriedly offered her advice. Goten, outside the door, felt like he was caught in an awkward situation. He wasn't even 10 years old yet. To be scheming like this already, were they still human? Ha ha. You're killing me. Seeing Goten's expression, Krillin teased without reservation. However, after a few moments of laughter, the amusement faded. The realization hit Krillin that Goten might have a girlfriend soon, while he, in his 30s, hadn't even held a girl's hand. Not even once. The thought brought a wave of sadness. Some people just seem to have all the luck. Ha ha. Mr. Krillin, why the sudden change in mood? Don't get so down, men get better as they age. Looking at Krillin's melancholic face, Goten playfully turned the tables. As their laughter filled the air, the door suddenly swung open. Videl and Chi-Chi stepped out. Ha! Goten, Krillin. When did you get back? And who's this pink, chubby fellow? Seeing the three at the doorway, Chi-Chi promptly inquired. Videl, on the other hand, turned beet red instantly. She must have realized that Goten overheard their conversation. Embarrassment washed over her. It's been a while. Mom, this is Bu, my friend. Goten introduced. "Bu, aren't you a cute thing? Oh, by the way, did you go fight again just now? Are you hurt?" Chi-Chi quickly inspected Goten's body, expressing concern. The recent upheaval on Earth must have led to new adversaries. "No, it's all resolved." Goten shook his head. He then glanced at Videl. At this point, Videl's face grew even redder. "And Chi-Chi, I suddenly remembered I have something to do. I'll visit again when I'm free." With that, Videl hastily excused herself, retreating like a defeated soldier. "Come in quickly. I've prepared a feast, and Videl hasn't eaten yet, so it's a treat for you." In this manner, time slipped away, day by day. 10 days flew by in the blink of an eye. During these 10 days, Goten's training never wavered. There was no compromise in the intensity of his daily workouts. Majin Bu began studying with Chi-Chi's guidance and even pitched in with household chores. Surprisingly, Bu's intelligence improved remarkably quickly. Now, communication flowed seamlessly between them. As for Krillin, he trained alongside Goten. Despite being an android, he wasn't constructed upon human foundations. So Krillin could also enhance his strength through rigorous training. At lunchtime, when they returned home for a meal, Videl returned. This time, she brought a slew of gifts. Mostly delectable snacks and a plethora of elegant clothing for Chi-Chi. She was well aware that something might be brewing between her and Goten, and winning Chi-Chi's approval was a significant step. "Wow! These dresses and skirts are gorgeous, Videl. They must have cost a fortune." Chi-Chi cradled the clothes lovingly, her joy evident. The pursuit of beauty was universal, and women naturally delighted in fashionable attire and jewelry. Since following Goku, Chi-Chi hadn't really acquired many new clothes. After all, feeding 2 scions was a formidable task. There wasn't much budget left for her own needs. Over the past few years, Goten had been immersed in training, largely ignoring this matter. "Aunt Chi-Chi, as long as you like them, these clothes weren't too pricey," Videl assured her with a warm smile. At this moment, she seemed far removed from the proud and haughty young woman she once was. "These clothes are indeed exquisite, and I adore them. Yet, I'm getting on in years, and I wonder if these outfits might be a bit too extravagant for me?" Chi-Chi held the clothes before the mirror, contemplating their suitability. Evidently, she was genuinely taken with the clothing. "Aunt Chi-Chi, you're not old at all, and these clothes are perfect for you. Plus, I brought you a bunch of cosmetics," Videl added, raising an eyebrow as she subtly looked at Goten. Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Chapter 56, Birthday. Purple Cat Awakens. Scion Dragon Ball, real author. Fake author/translator Zach, King, Rex. Your gift is the motivation for my laziness. Give me more motivation. Creation is hard, cheer me up. I tagged this book, come and support me with a thumbs up. Like it? Add to the library. Have some idea about the story? Comment on it and let me know. Chapter 56, Birthday. Purple Cat Awakens. Chapter 56, Birthday. Purple Cat Awakens. Oh Videl, why waste money on a poor old me? By the way, Goten, do you think I look good in these clothes? Chi-Chi turned her head, looked at Goten, and asked. Observing Chi-Chi's happiness, Goten nodded repeatedly. Well, Videl was right. These clothes suit Mom perfectly. Knock knock knock. At that very moment, a knock resounded at the door. Goten rushed to open the door. Aunt Bulma, please come in. It was Bulma. Goten, you've grown so much taller. You're resembling Goku more and more. Bulma greeted warmly. Then she entered the room. 3 women in one place, Chi-Chi, Bulma, and Videl, chatted for almost 2 hours. For Goten on the sidelines, this was becoming quite boring. After conversing for a while, Bulma finally disclosed the purpose of her visit this time. Goten, Shichi, and beautiful Videl, Goten's girlfriend, my birthday is in 5 days. I'm planning a grand celebration this time, a huge party on a cruise ship in the sea, and you all are invited. To be honest, there weren't many genuine friends left on Earth. Goku and Vegeta had been deceased for 8 years, and she had been immersed in technological research for the past 6 months. So, there wasn't much time for making friends. After careful consideration, these were the only friends she could invite. Ha! A birthday party on a luxury cruise ship? Awesome, I've never been to such a party before. We're definitely coming. Shichi eagerly agreed with sparkling eyes. Ever since she married Goku, she had been saving money diligently. Luxury cruise ships had never crossed her mind. Bulma's invitation was indeed a rare opportunity. Then, she asked, by the way, Bulma, I've seen on TV that at other rich people's cruise ship parties, there are lucky draws. Will there be any? Of course. I've arranged a lottery too. This time, the prizes are exceptional. Bulma deliberately mentioned. She was telling the truth. This time, one of the random prizes was something that ordinary folks might not earn in their lifetimes of hard work. That's fantastic, Videl. If the 3 of us from the family participate, our chances of winning must be high. Shichi exclaimed, taking Videl's hand. Videl blushed suddenly and looked at Goten. Goten was rendered speechless. Clearly, there was no room for decision. Alright, I'll head back now. Make sure you all come in 5 days. Bulma emphasized once again before leaving in her helicopter. Time slipped away like sand through fingers. 5 days passed in a flash for everyone. Especially for Goten, who trained rigorously every day, time flew even faster. On the appointed day, Videl arrived at Fire Mountain early. This girl seemed to treat this place as her own home and was entirely at ease here. At Chi-Chi's request, Goten also groomed himself. He reluctantly put on a suit he didn't particularly fancy. According to Chi-Chi, formal events required grand attire. What would it look like to attend a party in a training suit? His mother's will was hard to contest, so Goten had no choice but to comply. Despite his strength that could rank in the universe, he transformed into a well-behaved son in Chi-Chi's presence. Perhaps it was a manifestation of Bloodline's influence from family member. Using Kai Kai, they soon reached the designated location. A colossal cruise ship that resembled an aircraft carrier awaited them. Bulma was genuinely wealthy, no doubt about it. This cruise ship wasn't an ordinary luxury vessel. It was equipped with energy attack and defense systems. The constant emergence of powerful foes on Earth prompted Bulma to not only research defensive weapons, but also develop offensive tools. After converting Krillin into an android, she had begun creating offensive weaponry. Given her capabilities, safeguarding Earth couldn't be the sole responsibility of Goten and Krillin. Everyone had a role to play. At least, that's what Bulma believed. Wow! Is this a luxury cruise ship? It's so impressive. Observing the lavish cruise ship resembling an aircraft carrier, Chi-Chi couldn't help but sigh. Beneath the ship was a large circle filled with food stalls. Each snack prepared by the chef was a master in their craft. The whole ship exuded a distinct national flavor. Chi-Chi, Goten, you're here. Bulma appeared. She was dressed in a sky blue fitted dress. The dress accentuated her flawless figure. Though aging, Bulma's appearance and physique were impeccable due to her diligent upkeep. She even outshone renowned actresses back on Earth. And Bulma, you look stunning as always. Goten couldn't help but compliment sincerely. It wasn't a mere courtesy, it was a heartfelt admiration. Indeed, Bulma's appearance and figure left nothing to criticize. Hey! Our Goten has quite the way with compliments. What a sweet little mouth. Bulma smiled with delight. No woman dislikes being praised, not even by a child under 10. Oh! What a pity. If Goku, Gohan, Vegeta and Trunks were here, the party would be more lively and perfect. Chi-Chi sighed with a touch of sadness. Despite enjoying Goten's company, there were still moments when she yearned for Goku and Gohan. She wondered how they were faring in the afterlife. Especially Gohan, was he excelling in his studies and training? As for Goku, it was baffling how he hadn't contacted her for 8 years, even though he possessed the means. Yes. Especially my Trunks. Bulma's initial joyous expression morphed into sadness. The absence of Vegeta was something she could handle a little but miss him. But her son, Trunks, died at the age of 1. Even now, she misses Trunks every day. I wonder how tall he would be now and what he would look like. However, after a moment of sadness, Bulma swiftly regained her composure. She then said, all right, today is my birthday party, and it should be a joyful occasion. Let's not dwell on these unpleasant matters. Yes, let's avoid discussing these somber topics. Chi-Chi readily agreed, aware of Bulma's own pain. At least I have Goten by my side. Yet, in Bulma's family, she stood alone. Her parents, husband, and son had all perished in the Cell Games 8 years ago. Leaving behind the disheartening thoughts, everyone quickly immersed themselves in the joyous party. Moments later, Krillin arrived, accompanied by Master Roshi. Even Mr. Satan had been invited by Bulma. Though everyone hadn't been fond of the guy before, they all knew he was Vidal's father. And at this distant moment in the realm of the gods of destruction, within the temple. Aha! God of Destruction Beerus let out a yawning sound as he abruptly sat up. He scanned his surroundings with a dazed expression. It seemed he had just experienced an incredibly vivid dream, encountering a formidable opponent within it. He distinctly remembered the opponent's name from the dream. However, as soon as he opened his eyes, the name faded from his memory entirely. Hiss. What was that guy's name? How did I forget it so quickly? A glint of icy light emanated from God of Destruction Beerus' eyes as he muttered to himself. He attempted to recall the name, but it remained elusive. A hazy figure existed in his mind. Whis. After struggling to remember, Beerus called out loudly. Whoosh! In the next instant, Angel Whis materialized before Beerus with the sound of air parting. Hey! Lord Beerus, are you awake? Surprisingly, you've only slept for a brief period this time. What caused the change? Angel Whis looked at Beerus with astonishment, inquiring about the shortened slumber. After all, Beerus usually slept for at least 50 years. Typically, he could snooze for hundreds of years without a problem. Yet this time, he awoke after a mere 39 years. A rather perplexing deviation. Whis, I've just had an utterly peculiar premonitory dream. In this dream, a remarkably potent adversary emerged, claiming to be my rival. I distinctly remembered that individual's name a moment ago, but upon waking, it vanished from my memory. Beerus used his feline paw to scratch his ear with great vigor, striving to recollect. However, despite his extended contemplation, the name remained elusive. He couldn't recall it even slightly. Lord Beerus, dreams often follow this pattern. They seem incredibly clear upon awakening, yet once full consciousness returns, they become inscrutable. But, a premonitory dream? A rival? Are you jesting with me, Lord Beerus? Within the entirety of the 7th universe, how could anyone be considered your rival? Whis offered a rational explanation, followed by a disbelieving tone. After all, Beerus served as the 7th universe's god of destruction, mastering its 5th principle. He stood as the most dominant entity within this universe. No mortal or deity could hold a candle to him. Excluding myself as an angel, of course. Ugh! That dream felt so real, and I'm convinced it was a prophetic vision. The scene of me battling that individual in the dream was astonishingly lifelike, leading me to believe that this figure truly exists. Beerus furrowed his brows and spoke with unwavering conviction. Such realism wouldn't be possible if the figure didn't genuinely exist. Furthermore, this was a precognitive dream from a god of destruction, far removed from an ordinary dream. Lord Beerus, I suspect you experienced such an unusual dream due to your prolonged period without an equal adversary. Dreams shouldn't be taken too seriously. You've previously had premonitory dreams that never came to fruition, haven't you? Wyss still harbored skepticism toward precognitive dreams. After all, Beerus had encountered several before, none of which manifested. This time would likely prove no exception. Enough! Cease the nonsense! I assure you, it's genuine. Now, swiftly discover the identity of the figure in my dream and their current whereabouts. Beerus issued a direct order without further explanation. Regardless, he was determined to unearth the figure from his prophetic dream. Otherwise, it would feel akin to a troublesome piece of meat stuck between one's teeth, or stubborn earwax that resisted removal, deeply vexing. Well then, what was the name of this rival in your dream? Wyss could only inquire helplessly. Name? I've forgotten. But you're an angel, brimming with incredible powers. Can't you locate this individual in the blink of an eye? Beerus hesitated for a moment before making a request. An angel's abilities far surpassed those of a god of destruction. Moreover, the truth possessed various mystical capabilities. Tasks like time travel were well within their purview, so it shouldn't be too arduous to track down someone capable of foretelling dreams. Lord Beerus, your jest has gone too far. Although I am an angel, you can't even recall the name of your supposed rival. How am I expected to locate them? Wyss cast Beerus a slightly exasperated look, refusing to entertain his grandiose expectations. After all, this presumption bordered on omnipotence. Yet even Grand Priest might struggle with such a task. Moreover, Wyss was just an ordinary angel. Enough! You can't find them? It's vexing, an incredibly frustrating feeling. Hearing Wyss' inability to locate the figure from his premonitory dream, Beerus scratched his head in frustration. A cat's temperament was notably irritable. Ready yourself, I'm about to vent my frustration. Perhaps witnessing the splendid fireworks produced by a planet's explosion might trigger memories related to premonitory dreams. Beerus addressed Wyss in a chilly tone. Watching the stunning fireworks generated by a planet's detonation was among his favorite pastimes. This method also allowed him to blow off steam. Of course, Lord Beerus. Wyss nodded before preparing himself. He had long grown accustomed to such occurrences. Whenever Lord Beerus grew agitated, he would obliterate a few planets. Though such enforcement was admittedly irrational, Wyss, as an angel, could merely counsel the god of destruction and possessed no authority to interfere with his decisions. Next